You're listening to The Chris Maher Show, live on YouTube.
All right. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to The Chris Maher Show here on YouTube. A lot to talk about. Did something happen today? Somebody get traded? Ivan Provorov out in Philadelphia, traded to Columbus, part of a 3-team trade here with the Flyers. It's interesting. It's really interesting to kind of see kind of what happened. We have the first installment as well of Kicking It with Knuble. Mike Knuble joining me here each week on the program. Gonna be fun. Flyers officially going outdoors. That was one of the topics. Vegas up 2-0 in the Stanley Cup final. Flyers make some changes in the player development. All that stuff. What's up, everybody? Thanks, everybody, so much for tuning in. Again, we got Kicking It with Knuble here coming up in a couple of minutes here on the program. Should be fun. Should be exciting. A lot of stuff. And we'll start with the Provorov deal for a minute or two. That's going to be kind of the lead off here with Mike as well. Wow, I did not see that come today. I really did not. I mean, you sit there, you look at it, it's like, it's not something I expected to come today on a random Tuesday at 2 o'clock. But yeah, Ivan Provorov is out, traded to Columbus. Flyers get a lot back. Sean Walker, Cal Peterson, just a lot. You get a lot. You get another first-round pick. You get a second-round pick, conditional second-round pick, Helge Grands. So much, and it's going to be exciting to kind of see what else happens, because now with the addition of Cal Peterson, all the rumors from now, literally today till the night one of the draft, round 1 on the 27th, is all going to be Carter Hart rumors on where Hart gets traded. It's absolutely insane. We got 12 people in here already. What's up, everybody? Thanks so much for tuning in. Yeah, Mr. Twister, it's insane, dude. You get, actively calling. Yeah, exactly. Jonesy's on, actively calling games on TNT, and then that ends up happening. So, it should be interesting to kind of see kind of what happens here, in the coming weeks. Yeah. So. There's a lot to unpack here with the Provorov thing. But going off that, the outdoor game is official. Flyers are heading outdoors. Official. It tweeted out by the National Hockey League and the team. February 17th at I think 8 o'clock. Seems like the time hasn't been announced yet, but that would be my guess. Excuse me. Yeah, I mean it's gonna be interesting. That's gonna be fun. I love outdoor games. I talked about that before recently when that actually happened, or when it was rumored, I guess. Vegas up 2-0. Man, that's been a good final so far. Vegas is a team that it's probably the best team that Florida's played. Just in the overall sense of team structure, I guess. And it sounds weird to say because you have Boston, right? They ended up playing Boston, but just overall in the playoffs, it's really interesting just to kind of see kind of what is really happening with that. And the finals, it's been a fun couple of weeks here on the just in hockey in general. So, again, right after kicking it with Knuble, we got Bill Clement as well coming up at 6:20. So should be a fun episode. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. So let's switch it over to kicking it with Knuble. Here we go. Let me see if we can kind of get this rolling. Still waiting on Mike here to join up. So it's interesting. Yeah, so, we got a couple of things coming up here. Yeah, I mean, look, the Provorov deal alone, running into a couple technical difficulties here. Just trying to make sure that this all works out. There we go. Sorry about that, everybody. Trying to get Knuble kind of worked out here. Kind of to run into a couple difficulties with this. It's going to send out a new link. Here we go. Yeah, for some reason it's not showing up. So unfortunately, I am running into a technical difficulty at the moment, trying to kind of get that fixed out and fixed. Let's see what kind of happens here. So yeah, as we kind of wait for the kicking it with Knuble, Provorov deal. Yeah. So look. There's a lot of different things that can kind of go with this. You have, you add Walker, right? You had Walker, you had Peterson. There's a bunch of different things that can kind of go with this and kind of see kind of what happens. It'll be interesting. For some reason, I apologize. I literally didn't run into any issues with this before, and now, unfortunately, it's kind of giving me a problem. But yeah, no, I mean, I think for now, the Knuble thing, we're gonna kind of push that aside for a minute, just to kind of make sure that kind of works out and all that stuff. I believe we're gonna have Knuble just call in. So sorry about that. You just run into a little bit of an issue here. Hey, Mike.
Hey, sorry. Then it said join with Streamlabs, so I clicked on that to start downloading something.
Oh, I gotcha.
It's either join or join with Streamlabs. So then, because I'm sitting here looking at it, it's just powered by Streamlabs. I'm looking at it. Right. It shows me in my picture, but nothing else. So.
Gotcha. Okay, no big deal. And again, I apologize to everybody out there watching and listening. But as we're past the issues for the technical difficulties. This is the first installment of Kicking It with Knuble. So Mike, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. Super awesome to kind of have you on board. And thanks for doing this.
Well, it wouldn't be a podcast without some technical difficulties here. So
it's
good. Yeah, and I apologize for not. I don't know. I guess throughout COVID, you learn how to use Zoom, right, or whatever, and then a different company, and you're like, oh my god, I don't know what I'm doing. So yeah, here we are. Yeah.
But again, this is the first kind of installment. I know we're a couple minutes behind as well, but big news today, Mike. Ivan Provorov traded to Columbus. Kind of overall thoughts on that. Obviously, it was a huge deal. Flyers get a bunch, first round pick, second, get another defenseman and a goalie. Overall, just kind of wide brush thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, obviously Columbus feels they've got, a chance to gain a real good defenseman with some experience and a lot of time left. I think he's only like 26 years old or whatever. Mm-hmm. He's been in Philadelphia for 6-7 years and certainly was probably viewed as like a cornerstone defenseman for the next 15, and a guy that was going to be there. So I know I've met him a couple times. He seemed very wanting to be around Philly. Didn't he like summer in Philly, stay around there a lot, instead of going home and that. And so, I think he wanted to be there, but it's kind of a trend a little bit too. Like, Danny's got to make a decision here. And I've seen it a couple other times, just, like with Anthony Mantha and Jacob Vrana and with Detroit and Washington, like some of these GMs are getting they're trading guys before they really need to,
right.
And they're trading them at high points when they can get a lot of value for them. And so, nice work by Danny to get, he's giving away a nice player for sure. There's no doubt about it. Who's only 26 years old, but you feel like you're getting a lot in return and you get a couple bodies and obviously getting Cal Peterson is certainly, I'm sure you're going to get to that, but letting him go is kind of before you really need to seems to be a little bit of a trend where GMs can't fall in love with your players all the time. You pay them, and I guess that's how you show the love. But you've got to be able to move them at times when you feel like, well, I don't know about how this contract's going to work out. So so that's kind of my take on it. GMs are getting smart about moving guys before they really have to.
Right, exactly. And, I feel like the biggest thing with it is just, you add another first-round pick. So now the Flyers will be picking 7 and 22 in this draft.
Yeah.
You added a second in 2024, which is, something you needed. You should be getting another one for not signing Jay O'Brien. So, like, there's obviously a lot here to kind of unpack. And, for Peterson, kind of like what you were mentioning, he's a guy that, struggled a little bit, had a couple good seasons, has, pretty much been back up for most of his career. You kind of look at him like a Tippett in a way, because he's a guy that might just need a change of scenery, maybe underperformed a little bit in Florida and then comes to Philly and looks great. And I think it looks even better, again, kind of like what you were saying, these guys can kind of get moved around before you really kind of know what they are, essentially. And Peterson could be the case if the Flyers are able to kind of get him, playing just at that way that he was.
Well, and again, scouting, watching goalies, he can, make some analytics and then you have your eye test and you're watching, and like it can be, I think you hit the, on the head. It might be just a change of scenery, and
right.
So, creating either some competition or somebody's going to go, you don't know, and it's, he makes good salary. So does Carter Hart. And so, you don't want to get that much tied up in your goaltenders. Right. But it's certainly, Danny's, coming in, doesn't have a lot of, these aren't his contracts. They're not guys he signed or whatever. So, he can clean, kind of sort of clean house the way he wants to clean house. And so, as long as the money fits and the money works out and, I guess time tells and nobody has that crystal ball to see where the goaltending situation is going to be. But, Danny's probably betting this kid's a great athlete and a good goalie and just needs a little bit of change of scenery.
Right. Exactly. And I think part of it too is that, he adds, Helge Grans, who, a 21-year-old 6'3" defenseman, and honestly, outside of Ronnie Adler, the Flyers don't have any other defenseman prospects, right-handed, specifically, guys that can just genuinely come right in and play. And you know, he adds in an area that they needed. He moves out a guy who, you know, it didn't seem like he wanted to be in Philly anymore. At least that's kind of been, you know, at least, you know, rumored and kind of talked about at times. So I think it just made sense. I know a lot of it was kind of haze to Columbus, and that seemed like a lot of what the noise was going to be, but it ends up being Provorov anyway.
Yeah, and so yeah, like to your point, you know, like if you have Ronnie in the organization, there's not a lot of right shot D, you know, and so here you get another guy to compete with Ronnie and see who's going to be the better one to come out of there. But you know, that's certainly going to be an interesting take. And I think I believe LA took some of the Provorov salary from Columbus and to sweeten the deal and pulled some salary back. So they're obviously trying to get rid of salary and some players to make some sort of splash this summer, and trying to position themselves for that. And Columbus is like, well, we'll take a great D-man right now, you know, and if we can get and we get them at 30% or, you know, at 70%. Salary in our books, which is great. I mean, and they're hard dollars or whatever. So, it's interesting. Good bodies, extra bodies, and extra competition for guys to fight for spots, which makes your team better.
Right, exactly. Just kind of going off that then. Stanley Cup Finals. Vegas is up 2-0. Any quick thoughts on the Cup Final?
Yeah, I've been watching, and you know, certainly. I'm always kind of partial to the East just because that's where I played all the time. But, you know, just watching last night, I ended up 7-2, and the night before, you know, I think Florida at this point looks like a little bit of a team that's out of gas a little bit, you know, and to go to Vegas and play, and Vegas is a better team on paper, a little bit deeper, you know, and it showed last night, you know. I think it was pretty evident right from the gate that Florida was going to have to hang on to this one. And just feeling like they might be running out of gas here a little bit. It
seems like that Cinderella run's over.
Yeah, and it's been a hell of a run, and I guess you don't want to write guys off, but you know, at the same time, it's the ball is starting to, you know, the ball is really starting to roll toward, you know, Vegas's way, and you can feel that momentum. Even as a fan, you're like, oh boy, you know, watching the game, you're like, you're feeling like this is. You know, it's just a matter of time before Vegas just keeps scoring and chase. Bobrovsky's played a ton of hockey, you know, right now, high pressure hockey. He's been the man. And so, you know, they were able to chase him out of there. You know, Paul Maurice pulled him early, midway through the second period to give him a little bit of a break, but that didn't really change anything. But, you know, he's trying to prep for the next game and get him out of there, let him rest a little bit. And it's a long flight back to Florida to play again. So, I know Vegas looks like they're rolling pretty good right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it like everything is just coming together for them. One of the next topics was actually announced the other day officially. Flyers are going back outdoors. Going to be playing the New Jersey Devils at MetLife Stadium. Mike, you played outdoors before, scored in the Winter Classic actually. Is that? And I'm curious. Is that probably the best regular season goal you think you've scored? And I'm curious, just going off that then, like, for playing in the Winter Classic, is that, like, for a player, does that feel like a playoff game just because of everything that kind of goes on?
I think certainly it feels like a Super Bowl a little bit, you know, and you get there early, you know, and there's a lot of people that want tickets and a lot of family that comes. We played, you know, I was in Washington, we played up in Pittsburgh, and you know, it's whatever, an hour flight or 4 hours by car or whatever. But yeah, certainly, I mean, there were a lot of friends coming in, people, you know, it was right in the middle for us, like Michigan people coming out, you know, and, you know, Philly friends joining up there, coming to watch, and you know, friends from DC going up. So it's almost, you know, it's certainly like a huge, it's back. This is probably 10 years ago now. It's like, it was like a party. It felt like a college bowl game. I guess that would be the, you know, the best way to do it. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's this big thing. It's a big production for the league. And, you know, it's at the end of the day, it's 2 points, right? You know, but it certainly feels like you won something really good. But at the end of the day, it's just like, it's just 2 points. And I don't mean to like water it down at all. It's a great, you know, fun pageantry. I think the Stadium Series, I actually played an alumni Stadium Series game out in Colorado, you know, with all the Colorado versus Detroit guys. And, you know, probably about 6 or 7 years ago. It was great. I mean, that was 72 degrees in Pittsburgh. It was raining, you know, and I did one in Comerica Park with the Red Wings and the Maple Leafs, and it was minus 10 degrees, you know, it was 10 degrees or whatever. And feel like I'm forgetting one. I feel like I did another one, but yeah, no, it's all kinds of different conditions, and obviously that's the X factor. In North Jersey in January, whenever that game was in mid-January, so then it's going to be, it could be anywhere. Everybody knows that, but it's certainly a natural fit to have the Devils and Flyers play right up the road from each other, and it's always it's a fun experience, and certainly a game on the schedule that's special, and but at the end of the day, it's 2 points.
Right, for sure. And especially too because the Flyers don't have the best outdoor, I guess, numbers. They're 1-3-1 outdoors, only have one win. So it would be nice, and I know the argument is there for, the Flyers are rebuilding. Why are we putting them outdoors, kind of thing. But I think at the same time, like the Flyers probably want that because they want to show off the new kind of era. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and they're a big draw too. I mean, you got to know who's watching the games and stuff like that too. So, I think it's going to get a lot of eyes on it, especially in that corridor, from Philly to New York and, a lot of people there. And, Jersey's got some real nice young stars coming up in the Hughes brothers and they're kind of an exciting team, score a ton of goals and they're exciting in that respect. So obviously the draw of the markets, really at this point it's a market, drawing them in, but still some exciting players and, TV and the NHL can hype up anything. And so it'll certainly be, it's a game, and it's a great game for Flyers fans to go up and see. I mean, they're a great experience and a lot of fun. You can't see anything really, but because you're in a football stadium in a tiny rink, but half the fun is just getting there and drinking beer in the parking lot. And then if you see the game, you see the game,
Right.
So.
Yeah. And just before we, kind of keep up with the conversation, just wanted to throw out a, program update. Bill Clement's going to be joining me here at 6:30. But yeah, no, just going off that too. I mean, I remember the first ever hockey game that I went to was actually the AHL Winter Classic when the Flyers played the Rangers at Citizens Bank where the Phils play. They had the Phantoms play the Bears, Hershey Bears. It was the first hockey game I ever went to, and I couldn't see anything. It was like nothing. And I remember, I don't remember who it was on Hershey, but they scored maybe like 10 seconds into the game, and my dad just looked over at me, and he was just like, "That's how quick hockey is." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right." And then, but just going off that though, from anything that you remember from playing in the Winter Classic, what's the conditions like? Like, is it totally different than, obviously it's much more different than anything else, but like, how much more different is it than just any other night in the NHL, I guess?
Well, I think first part for us, it was like kind of like a lukewarm day, it was like, it was New Year's Day, we were supposed to play at 1, but then it was kind of like humid and rainy. Yeah, they pushed it back. So that would be the first thing, right? So you wake up in the morning and then, you're kind of watching, even, if you go to bed the night before, you're only time ever as a player you're watching the weather report, that's going to actually affect your game. Right. So we all kind of had an idea. You're getting texts, in the evening that, okay, well, we might be delayed. Should, we'll know by 10 a.m. or whatever it was, we'll know by breakfast time that, what we're going to deal. And if not, it's going to be at 7, when the sun goes down and we think the weather's going to pass. So that was the first part where you kick back a little bit. So fans, obviously it changes everybody's, arrival times or how they're getting there or, what they're going to do. And which is fine. So now as players, as long as we know before, you can kind of change your day and stay in bed and just kind of have a more normal, like 7 o'clock game. The other thing was, so then the conditions start to like kind of deteriorate a little bit. The ice is kind of like, it's kind of warm. It's not cold enough to really keep the ice real tight. So it's getting kind of pebbly and kind of rough and not great. And then it's the most ironic thing was when the guys who typically wore shields started taking them off. And and I remember looking at Chris Letang and I'm like, I had to do a double take. I'm like, who is that? Like you're just so used to recognizing guys, but guys tried to finish the game and then play the third period or whatever with no shields just because it was getting too misty kind of like that, and it's just couldn't even get through your shift without, not being able to see anymore. Mm-hmm. So it was like, I remember him, and I don't remember, maybe like Dave Steckel from Washington, but some guys started taking them off, and you had to do a triple take. And, I wasn't wearing a shield. I didn't wear one the whole time, and there were a few more guys that weren't wearing them. So we were fine, but it was funny to see guys who were, normally, you recognize their headshot and they look like a certain way with shield, not wearing one and having to figure out who it was again.
Right, exactly. Just going off that, have you ever worn a shield? Like did you ever wear one or no?
No, I you know what? I wore one in Sweden because you had to during the lockout. So right before I went to Philadelphia, I signed, and their rules were, everybody wears a shield. So you wore it and kind of, I don't know. I kind of got used to it over time. I believe we had to maybe one of the Worlds or something. I don't know either. Maybe not. But then I didn't continue to do it, and I ended up breaking my cheek and break my eye socket in Philadelphia when I collided with Brendan Shanahan at Madison Square Garden, and then I wore a full cage the rest of that year for a dozen games, and so I didn't wear a shield ever. I wore a full cage in the NHL, but from injuries. But yeah, I know it was probably not the smartest thing in the world to not do for me to do, but it's just kind of what I was going with, and I kind of just went with it. So.
Yeah, no, I hear it, because that's the thing. Like even me, like for me, I can't skate. So I like the highest level I've played is basically like beer league ball hockey. Like that's pretty much all I've played. And I remember there was I think it was the Nasty Knuckles tournament last year, and I wasn't I took my cage off, and my dad's looking at me. He's like, "What are you doing?" So I'm not wearing my cage. He says, "Why?" I said, "I realized how much better I can see." And then a couple minutes later, I thought to myself, and all I was thinking of was the Chris Pronger injury when he took the stick in the eye, and I was like, "Yeah, I should probably put this back on."
Everybody's got to work in the morning, and now even play. I play very rarely, but I try and wear one then, just because you get guys that are out of balance a little bit. Guys who are wearing shields tend to that's the danger, is when you get the guys wearing shields and not, wearing full mask, and then guys not wearing anything, because the guys who haven't worn, they're a little wild with their sticks, kind of, and that's a little bit of the danger. But it's most guys now these days play men's league or whatever, you can wear a half shield and be all right, but probably smartest to do that, because everybody's got to work in the morning, right? Nobody wants to go to the hospital and wait for stitches for, or even something worse than that, because you're playing a stupid men's league game.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then just one nice thing here to kind of finish it off. And again, I do apologize about earlier and kind of the time switching over. So this is kind of a fun thing that this is kind of what I was texting you about last night. So I've been trying to think of different things to ask for questions and stuff. And one of the things that I came up with was a Flyers edition of Would You Rather. And so I'm going to give you 3 different eras of when you would want to play right wing in Philly, and then tell me which one that you want to play in. All right.
Okay.
So you could either go to, or at least start your career. I know you started with Detroit, and you won a cup. And I'm curious, just to clarify that, you won 2 or 1?
Yeah.
Because I looked it up and it said that you won, that you're on it only on the cup once, but you're in the picture for both.
Yeah, I got 2 rings.
Okay.
So that year when Detroit beat Philly, I came up with 10 games to go. Remember Detroit, Colorado, when they had that big brawl? That was my first game. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So then they didn't send me back. They kept me around. I didn't play it all, but I was there for that one. So yeah, I got all the perks, except I didn't qualify to get my name on. Then I made the team next year, so I got on. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So the first one is go back to 96, 97, play with guys like Lindros, LeClaire, 74, 75, Clark and Barber. You could be right wing with them. Or, and this one's kind of more for me, I guess, because I at least saw them live, Giroux and Voracek in 2014-15 when they were in their prime, and Voracek had the 81-point season and all that. Which one would you pick?
Yeah, I go for the points. I would go to Giroux, Voracek, and then Lindros era. Okay. Being the player I was when I was in Philly. Yeah. I would like to. Yeah, that would have been good. Now going with Eric and who'd you say with Renberg, right? Did you say with Renberg or something?
John LeClaire, yeah.
Oh, John LeClaire, yeah. Yeah, so going with those 2, probably could have had a real good chance to win it. Probably the best chance to win it all, really, But, certainly points keep you in the league a lot. If Voracek and Claude were having, 80, 89-point seasons, that's always fun to get dragged along. That means I'm going to have 65 to 75. So that's good. That keeps me in the league a little longer.
Right.
Probably more team success, maybe with Eric and John, but and real heavy, probably they have maybe one of the bigger lines in the league. But certainly Joe and Jacob would have been a little more run. That would have been a lot more run and gun. Where John and Eric would have been a little more brawn and a little more. That's when you can hook and hold and stall and all that stuff. So that would have been fun to play with those two. But probably Jake and Claude for sure.
Okay, awesome. Mike, again, thanks so much. I appreciate it, and I'll talk to you next week. All right.
All right, Chris. Thanks for having me, buddy.
All right. See you, Mike. Bye.
See ya.
All right, there he is, Mike Knuble for the first installment of Kicking It with Knuble. First, we got Will Clement coming up here. Just going to ring him back. Here we go. Hey, Mr. Clement, how are you?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. And
sure.
I apologize for the little time switch there. Got caught up with some stuff.
That's okay.
Lots to kind of talk about today. I'm sure you heard the news. Ivan Provorov traded to Columbus. Huge deal. Any quick wide brush thoughts on that?
The Flyers got a bunch of assets. If any of them pan out, they're going to do really well. And they got rid of almost, $6-point-something million worth of salary in the process. Mm-hmm. I don't know what's going to happen with Cal. Yeah, I mean, I got lots of thoughts. This is, whatever. Let's go for it.
I mean, look, I think for me, I like that they added another first round pick. I think that was they needed to. I think you get a guy in Walker that can definitely play. I don't know where, essentially, because I think the biggest thing with Provorov, and obviously you saw this in your years as broadcaster, is the minutes, the block shots, all of that stuff, a lot of that. And I don't really know if there's a guy on the team right now that can just come right in and play those minutes and just specifically that role.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah, go ahead.
My wife just about got dinner on the table, and did I call you to have you tell me everything you know about the trade, or am I calling in for you to find out something about me? I
just wanted to kind of explain a couple things and then just ask you about it. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I appreciate your feelings on it. Everybody's got a take on it, and the first round pick that they got that was LA's pick gives them 2 first rounders. I mean, let me just put it this way: Danny Briere is on the map.
Yeah.
In a big way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good for him.
Yeah. For
sure. Player, you never know, do you? But I mean, he jumped out of the cake big time on this.
Right.
Yeah.
Just kind of going off then, what are some of your thoughts on Briere as GM?
Well, it's hard to have any thoughts until you see what he does. I mean, I know Danny's a smart guy, kind of tight to the vest guy. He's obviously been a student of the game for a little guy he got beat unmercifully by Jim Schoenfeld when he played in Phoenix, and Shoney was the coach out there. So Danny has come through the school of hard knocks. And look, I give everybody the benefit of the doubt when they get a job. But you never know. Like, did anybody know anything about Danny Briere's acumen that he would put forth as a GM?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't.
Yeah.
But this deal is like, oh my God, he understands all of the moving parts. I mean, we'll wait to see. But I mean, he's got a second rounder in the deal as well. I'm thoroughly impressed.
Yeah.
But I think getting Cal Peterson gives him goaltending depth. I don't know where Carter Hart stands in all of this.
Right.
I want to wait and see if Cal Peterson, he's not a starter, but he's a reliable guy. I mean, the Flyers, what did the Flyers give up? Provorov, Hodgson, and Connaughton.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Right.
So I know Provy's, I got to tell you something. Provy's first year in the league, first year and a half in the league, I thought he was going to be a top 10 player. I thought he was close to that then.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, he's regressed. He's not as good as he was then. Now, can he reclaim that? Fine. I got to tell you something. I think not going out and taking the warm up during the Gay Pride week and then the Gay Pride warm up. You know, I'm not so sure that doesn't play into this at some point. Not in Danny Briere's mind, but just overall with the organization. I mean, you make a stand like that. Yeah, it's a slippery slope. All in all, thoroughly impressed with Danny Briere. Thoroughly impressed.
Okay. Just kind of going off then, just kind of going back to your career. Is there any moment that you could pick that's, I guess, a favorite moment from winning the Stanley Cup with the Flyers?
Wow. Well, winning the first one and having the last, winning 1-0 in Game 6 and having the last 10 minutes of the game seemed like it was 10 years. I mean, that's the moment in time that seemed like it would never end. So winning the first cup was unbelievable, but then winning the second one on the road and us just being able to be together. If anybody wants to know what it was like winning the first cup, go back and look at some of the video. It was mayhem on the ice. We couldn't find one another. Like we players, we wanted to be with one another. We wanted to just hang out on the ice, and it was chaos. So we got a chance to do that in Buffalo, and then be together in the locker room pretty well after the game, and fly home with the cup on our charter flight, and it was fantastic. I can tell you the worst day of my life was the day 2 weeks after we won our second cup, when I was driving back to Canada to spend the summer, staying at my wife's aunt's house in Syracuse, and at 7:30 in the morning, she came in and woke me up and said, "Somebody's calling here for you, Keith Allen from the Flyers." He was our GM. And I remember sitting straight up in bed going, uh-oh, because I knew what was coming, because I'd been rumored with Don Selesky, Bob Kelly, Schultze, a couple other guys, Terry Crisp, Orest Kinderchuk, that one of us was going to the Washington Caps in a trade for the Caps' first-round pick, which was the number 1 pick overall. And it turned out to be me. So that was the worst day as a Flyer. I had way more good days than I had bad days.
Okay. Gotcha. And just kind of going off that, I think one of the things that for me, is there anything that you could maybe just kind of switch that and go from player to broadcaster? Is there any moment from you that, as a broadcaster in Philly that you could maybe pick as a favorite as well?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, when I was with ESPN, calling Game 6 of the 87 finals against the Oilers, when J.J. Daigneault scored to really propel the Flyers into a 7th game. It was the crazy. Doc Emmerich and I were working for ESPN, and it was in the Spectrum. So that was crazy. But the other great moment there were a lot of them. Game 6 against Tampa Bay in early 90s, when Keith Primo kind of strapped the team on his back and forced a Game 7 in Tampa, was amazing. But also in 2010, when that was the most amazing run, when the Flyers had to score on the shootout, had to win the shootout, and it was the ultimate shootout, because if the Rangers won the shootout, they went to the finals or to the playoffs, and if the Flyers won the shootout, they went to the playoffs. And Danny Briere scored on Henrik Lundqvist, and then Brian Boucher stopped whatever the Swede was that choked all the time.
Olli Jokinen. Yeah,
Olli Jokinen. And then the way the Flyers went, and then going down 3-0 of the Bruins, and coming back and winning a 7th game of that series in Boston, being down 3-0 in the first period. Yeah. Like, those were head-shaking, memorable moments, not only in snapshot moments, but almost in an extended video moment. Like if you look at the overall from the beginning to the end of that run, and sadly, the Flyers couldn't win it with 4 defensemen. They had Chris Pronger, Braden Coburn, Kimmo Timonen, and Matt Carl, and they had to ride them so unbelievably, because Ryan Parent and Lucas Krajicek, who were their 5 and 6, and they didn't have any depth. They couldn't call anybody up. Early in the series, every time Parent and Krajicek hit the ice, it was a disaster. and it got to the point where they couldn't be played. So, you can't win a Stanley Cup with 4 defensemen. You might be able to win with 5, but Chicago was a better team that year in 2010. But the run up to it was, I'll never forget them.
Yeah, no, for sure. Unfortunately, at that time, I wasn't a fan, but I got into it a couple years later and can kind of been dying for something like that since. Just kind of going off that, this past year, I was talking with Dave Poulin, and he was kind of mentioning, some things about kind of when he became captain of the team, that he kind of had to, they had a switch, kind of similar to the Flyers now, had to kind of make that where, the fans kind of had to watch, they kind of had to make them want to watch them, you know what I mean? They had to be, a better team. And it's kind of similar to where the Flyers are at now. Where kind of, the players on the team, you kind of have to make, you have to make the fans want to get interested again. Just going off that, is that something that you would agree with? That kind of, the players now kind of have to, have to get the fans kind of back involved into it kind of thing?
Not really, in the sense that players don't think like that. Like, that's marketing. That's the general manager that has to put an entertaining team on the ice. That's a coach that hopefully has to play a style that endears the team to the crowd. Mm-hmm. But to say that the players have to do that, they got enough to worry about, trying to keep their jobs, put up points, help the team, be a plus player, not get injured, all of those things. So it's the general manager's responsibility to build a winning team. And believe me, everything's easy in an organization when a team's winning. Everything is easy. Mm-hmm. But when the team's not winning and missing the playoffs, everything's difficult. But if you ever brought a player in as a coach or a general manager and said, look, part of your responsibility is putting people back in the seats, somebody, a wise hockey person looking at that would say, what the hell are you telling your players?
Yeah, right.
Like, you put them in the roles where they can succeed, help them play in certain roles where they're going to gain success. And look, it's up to the marketing people, the general manager. It's as simple as build a winning team and they will come. Mm-hmm. A losing team, look, the Flyers have done really well over the years with teams that haven't done well in the standings.
Right.
But John Tortorella is the kind of guy that gets them playing hard, blocking shots, never taking a lazy step, all of those things. And when you plug in better players into something like that, and look, the Flyers this last season, Sean Couturier is one of the 3 best two-way centers in the NHL. They didn't have him. Cam Atkinson hardly played. Chuck Fletcher made a deal 2 years ago for Ryan Ellis. Ryan Ellis played 4 damn games. Yeah. I mean, everything that could go wrong went wrong. Right. I really believe that if the Flyers had been healthy the last year and a half, that they would have been right there on the bubble. Could they have done something and made a march to the cup? No, I doubt that. But they certainly would have been more competitive and been, I think, knocking on the playoff door. And you look at other teams, too. It's hard. You better have depth, you better have goaltending, and you better have the will to win throughout your roster. And that's, I think, what the Flyers are building right now.
Yeah. No, for sure. I agree, especially with the injuries. I mean, I think it's no secret, especially, Couturier, Atkinson, like you mentioned. Yeah, those guys, that's 70, 80 points right there.
Well, Joel Farabee was coming back off back surgery, too. Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, the same back surgery that Jack Eichel went through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tyler Johnson as well, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But just touching on the Stanley Cup Finals, I can't tell you how impressed I am with Jack Eichel. Mm-hmm. He has played head-to-head against Sasha Barkov of the Florida Panthers, and he is eating them alive.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for Jack. He was much maligned. Remember, maybe you don't, but I do. It was like, who's going to go number 1, mm-hmm. Connor McDavid or Jack Eichel? And McDavid went number 1. And the hockey people knew that Connor McDavid's engine ran a little hotter than Jack Eichel's. But Jack Eichel's engine has heated up over the last few years, and I'm really happy to see. I mean, right now, Vegas is a juggernaut. The Florida Panthers are not going to stop them. The Stanley Cup's going to Las Vegas.
Yeah, no, I hear you, especially with how games 1 and 2 have been rolling and all that.
Oh, my God. Yep.
Yeah, no, this has been great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe we could do it again sometime.
And just for the record, I am interested in your opinions.
Okay.
But with my wife having dinner on the table upstairs, I'll spill my guts to you and then go and eat. How's that? Call me anytime, man.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, buddy.
Bye.
Bye.
There he is, Bill Clement. Awesome. Yeah. So let me just flick this off. Yeah, that was good. Anything else? Anybody wants to call in, talk Provorov trade, anything like that? It'll be interesting. But yeah, no, I mean, Provorov traded, pretty big day. Yes, I am taking calls. Anybody wants to call in? 267-939-1216. Probably take calls for the next 15 minutes or so. Hey, what's up, Sean?
What's going on, Christopher? How you doing tonight?
Good, man. How are you?
Oh, I'm okay. I'm glad you got through the technical glitches and other mishaps tonight. You're doing a good job. Hang in there.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
All right, let's talk Dylan Danny. Most of the consensus I've read on Twitter and YouTube and the like is as far as the Provorov deal goes.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good deal. I mean, look, in my opinion, I think I may have said this to you before, but when you're rebuilding and you're as bad as the Flyers have been, I don't think the phrase untouchable factors in at all.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, how deep do you want to go? I mean, this is a cut that a Band-Aid isn't going to fix. It requires stitches. So, I know people are upset about Carter Hart, but let's see what the return is before we start calling Danny Briere the Antichrist. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I hear you. I think for me, look, it's his first deal. There isn't as much that you can kind of go off on at the moment, because it's only one deal, but at the same time, I mean, that's not to say that this wasn't a good trade or anything like that. I mean, look, I think it's kind of like what Bill Clement was saying as well. Like, you kind of have to wait a little bit, and I think it's fair. I think there's part of it that's like that he and look, I've said this before, like he knows this era, he knows the team, the fans, the city, everything, and I think just for now, it's like perfect, and I think he really showed that today. I think he moves out a guy who didn't really want to be here, and I think that was pretty obvious. You got a guy in Walker who certainly can play. You have Peterson, and similar to Tippett, right? Can possibly rebound on another year kind of thing. And then you add another first round pick. You add Granz, who certainly is a thing that you needed. You needed a right-handed shot defenseman in the prospect pool outside of Ronnie Attard, and I just think. And also forgetting to mention that they added 2 second-round picks as well. It was huge. It was a great deal. And I think if that's what you get for Provorov and a 3-team deal, I don't understand why people think we wouldn't get a lot, at least a good chunk or something close to that in a Carter Hart deal, because
the word of the
thing, you're moving a lot.
Right. The word of the day in any Flyers deal is draft picks. I mean, that's. The goaltender and Walker, the defenseman, I mean, yeah, they're nice pieces for now. They may be peddled at the trade deadline next year. The young defenseman is a good asset to get as well. I mean, he could turn into something under the radar that turns into a real good player. But
right.
The Flyers, and I said this to Amadeo. Hi, Amadeo, if you're still in the stream, you rat bastard. In any trade, in any sport, I mean, to me, the teams that win do it through the draft.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Flyers have to nail not only this draft, but the drafts in the future. I mean, I wish some of these second-rounders could have been in this draft, but irregardless, I mean, they're putting all their energies into the draft, which is fine. I think
Right.
that's how you have to get this team back on the map.
Mm-hmm.
But any trade grade that I'd give an I, because it all revolves around what these draft picks turn into.
Right.
I mean, what are these 2 first-rounders going to materialize into? And that's going to tell you the letter grade that you can stamp on it. But
Right.
I think Danny's doing a great job. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's a good first deal, and I think it's one of many to come.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree, dude. I think there's a lot more. But we'll see. Sean, I talk longer, but I got a couple other people that are kind of been ringing at me. So
I know that
I'll,
phone's been buzzing off the hook. I tell you what, it's a hot ticket item.
Yeah. All right, man.
I'll talk to you
soon,
later.
All right.
All right, man.
Bye.
See ya.
Here we go. Hey, this is Chris. You're on the air. Oh, there we go. Hey, this is Chris. You're on the air.
Hey, Chris, it's Lou. How are you, buddy?
Hey, what's up, Lou? How are you, dude?
Listen, great show. You were one of the first people I thought of when the trade happened today, just to figure about what you thought, with these assets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, like, you're moving a guy who certainly plays a lot of minutes, blocks a ton of shots, has only missed, I think, 1 game in his career. That's a lot. That's a big hole to fill. I think on paper, they're certainly worse. And I kind of said this in the video I made earlier as well. Like, they're certainly worse on paper, but the overall process and the let me think of the best way to put it. I think, I guess, just the down the line kind of thing, I think it's going to work out.
Well, you kind of have to take a step backwards to, make 2 step forward,
Right.
and I think that's what's going on. My only fear is that, like I said, and as well as anybody, it was a difficult season. I was watching it with you, as intent as you. And, it just was really disappointing to see where they were at. And this, to me, is like, and you mentioned earlier, I picked up on it, we were saying about the shot blocks and the minutes. Well, who's going to pick up that ice time? I mean, Sanheim being out there more is going to, it scares me.
The only guy that I could see doing it is Cam York. And I don't even really think York is there yet. I'm sorry.
They're high on him, but I mean, you're right. He's a young kid. We don't know what we're getting.
Right. And, for me, and look, I'm not trying to say York didn't play good, because I thought York was outside. Him and Ristolainen were their 2 best defensemen last year, in my opinion.
Right.
I do think York can do that, but you're putting him. You've had him on the right side. This would put him on the left. I'm curious if they even try Walker there at times, because I believe, and again, don't quote me on this, but I think he's played it before in LA. Kind of before they had Dursey with Doughty there for a little bit. I've said this to a lot of people. Like, I'm always up late, so I catch a lot of the late games. And for some reason, I watched a lot of Kings and Kraken games this year, and Walker seemed to play pretty well. Like, Peterson's another one where it's like, kind of like Tippett can kind of rebound. You're hoping
Right.
in a really tough season, change of scenery kind of thing. I think it's
Well,
pretty.
he fell out of favor with his GM. I mean,
Right.
he signed a 3-year, $15 million contract, and then fell out of favor, and he was gone. I mean, so this is, I really, and I don't know what you think about it. I'm really disappointed, though, that it looks like the writing's on the wall that Hart's going to be gone. I mean, and it's going to be real soon. I
was running, not running, but I was walking up and down my hallway, kind of pacing, like screaming F-bombs to myself, because I wasn't happy about it. It's not something I really want to admit or really even see it happen, because we've literally never had a goaltender since Ron Hextall.
Right.
And
we waited this long for that, and then
Right.
finally we get the heir apparent to the next. He's the guy. I mean, he's the franchise. He's everything, and then we finally get him. And then look at what happens. And let's be honest. I mean, I get it. Like, next year, it just seems to me that you're going to see a lot of 40, 45 shot games against the Flyers, because they just really, don't have anybody back there. So they're going to need the depth. I mean, I get that, but it looks like he's going to be gone. And it's
Right.
disappointing because he's young. Now, here's the thing, though. Imagine a boatload of, prospects or assets that you get for him.
Right.
I mean,
Well, that's the thing. It's like, if you can get you know, like the only reason that I would move him is if you get another pick in between 7 and 22. Because I really don't think anybody is trading 1 through 6. I just don't think there's enough you can pull there. And realistically, I don't think any of those teams are really in like dire need of a goaltender because none of them are in a winning situation. Why would Hart want to go to one of them?
Right.
So my thing is like, well, like you're gonna have to talk with Hart and see what he wants. There's probably a team that he'd like to prefer to go to. It's not like he has like any like official say or anything, but I'm sure Danny B's gonna talk to him. My other thing is, if you're doing that, like I mentioned, you're going to have to get another pick in between 7 and 22. It's the only way. It's the only reason. It's the only way it makes sense. If it's LA and they've been rumored to get a goaltender, they've been rumored at Hellebuck and they've been rumored at these other guys. Excuse me. There's other guys that they could go out and get. Buffalo is one as well. Like the only way I would do it is if you can go out and get a legit prospect that could probably play tomorrow if the Flyers started tomorrow, and a first.
Right. Now they cut off what? What's Carter Hart making this year? So they cut off a little bit there.
3.9.
Oh, so I mean, again, technically they're moving. Well, they moved some of Provoral's money or whatever to LA.
They really, if I'm being honest, they literally just swapped the Provorov deal because you sent out Provorov at full salary. You took on Walker and Peterson right there. That's 7.6. Provorov made 6.7, and you throw in Connaughton and Hodgson, that's 1.5. So do the math. That's like the same contract, and you move them out at full salary. There's no retention. We're not retaining any money. That's what LA's doing, and we got the second round pick and then to retain money for Kevin Connaughton. I mean, we really didn't give them anything. So that's the thing. Like you break it down, player by player and asset by asset, it was a perfect trade because you moved out of a number one defense. Like that's the biggest thing with this is just like who fits that role or that hole, excuse me. And if you can't get a guy to do that, and it is harder, and it's probably not gonna be easy. This now really makes me wonder about D'Angelo because we took on a guy in Walker at 1 year, and I really wonder if they try to move D'Angelo at some point or if they wait until the deadline. I'm not sure, though.
Right, it's a shame about D'Angelo, but it seemed like at the end of the season, he fell out of favor with Torts, even though, as far as I was concerned, he was having a pretty good season for the first, like, say, 50 games. I thought he was playing pretty well, and then for some reason he fell out of favor with Torts. And listen, he comes with some baggage, and I get that, but I mean this is another guy, D'Angelo, I think, who should be able to play a big part here, but what are you getting out of him? And how much, going forward? And
especially at $5 million. I mean, I'm not opposed to keeping a guy for another year that you're going to play third pair, because I don't want it to be that thing where it's like Torts knows that whole kind of thing, and then everything that happened at the end of the year, and then there's like you don't really play the guy. Like I don't want it to be Gossespierre again, where like Vigneault had no idea how to play Ghost and then sat him up in the press box, and he was making $4.5 million. Like that's not...
There was more money in the press box, than there was out on the ice sometimes, and when we both know that Tortorella isn't beyond doing that either. Mm-hmm. He sours on somebody like he has with Hayes. There's another guy who you think's got to be moved, and so there's more assets or more things coming in. But listen, I'm okay with them scaling all the way down to play a bunch of 19, 20, 21-year-olds and grow together, create that culture that they keep talking about. Go back, whatever it is. But the really where's the competitiveness? And like you were talking about earlier, dude, and I got to tell you, the outdoor game, why would you want to go to that right now? I mean,
I'll be there regardless. I mean, it doesn't matter if the Reading Royals all get called up and the Flyers are outdoors. I don't care. I'll be there.
Oh, right. It's the whole atmosphere was great. I was down at the one at the link. I mean, it was against Pittsburgh. It was awesome. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's just really, it's listen, I got to tell you, and I'll let you take some other calls. I got to tell you, man, you and I have known each other for a few years now. I guess it was probably 6 years ago, right around this time. I told you what I felt about you as a hockey player. Yeah. Keep doing the same thing that you're doing now. Keep the drive, keep the excitement and the energy up. And listen, just, have to call people after dinner. That's all. Other than that, man, you're doing a fantastic job, and like I told you, you are by far, in the right job for you. And like I said, I wish you nothing but the best, and I want to start calling in more often and give you a little grief. So this was a nice one.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
So I'll give you some grief, and like I told you, you are by far a better announcer and podcast and hockey player than your dad is drummer. So.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Lou.
All right, brother. Have a good day.
All right, man. You too. I'll talk to you. Awesome. Again, if anybody else wants to call in, ring the line. Talking anything Flyers. Obviously, trade today with Provorov. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But, if anybody wants to ring in. What's up, Dad?
Okay, first of all, I want to respond to that PUD as far as my drumming abilities go. Okay?
Uh-huh. You're a little muffled, Dad.
How's that?
That's better.
Okay. My drumming abilities are amazing, and we'll leave it at that. Just as your podcast ability is, so is my drumming. Okay? Love the trade. Love, I wasn't, as you know, I wasn't at first when you told me the first, part of it. But I love the trade. I think Brayer's going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Carter goes. I mean, hopefully they can get, something as good as the trade that was made today.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm sure you got other people calling in and everything like that.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to come in until Lou made the drumming comment, and that's what did it. So
I think somebody in the chat called you America's sweetheart. Just wanted to let you know.
Oh well, they're right.
Well, I mean, to some people, I mean. All right.
All right, man.
All right, I'll talk to you, Dad. Say I love you. Bye. Again, if anybody else wants to call in, hit the line 267-939-1216. Again, I apologize about the Knuble. We're gonna try to work out the kinks with that. Excuse me. I'm gonna try to make that a little more simple next time. Again, anybody else wants to call in, ring the line, give it another minute or so. But, huge day. I mean, Provorov out. A lot of stuff, man. It kind of does stink it didn't work here. The more you think about it, like, you got a guy who get a call as well.
Chris?
What's up, Tristan? How are you, buddy?
What's up? So, what do you think about those deals from today? Yeah,
dude. A busy day, man. I mean, lot to break down. I mean, I like it. I said it before. I'm pretty happy with it. I mean, honestly, I'm ecstatic. I mean, really, you moved out a guy you didn't want to be here, and you got all this stuff back, and picks, and everything.
You traded Provy to Columbus, and who else? You have Kanon Hawks and went to LA for Harrison and Walker, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I mean, and one thing about Carter Hart, do you really think we should trade him? Because I don't think about that either.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. I mean, I'm in the middle. I would if you get the right return, because I just have the feeling now that it's going to happen. And I said the same thing about Provorov because I thought it was going to happen, and it did. Go ahead.
I mean, Provy won to leave Philadelphia, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to take over his minutes? That's the question.
Right, exactly. And then that's kind of what I've been trying to figure out here is just...
Like, I don't see any defenseman playing those kind of minutes.
Right. And you have...
York,
Walker can definitely play some minutes, but nothing into the extent of Provorov. If you just look at, Walker alone,
similar to Tippett.
Yeah, well, Peterson more like that.
Peterson, yeah.
But,
Yeah.
Walker plays, around 15, 16 minutes a night on average, 14. I mean, that's nothing like what Provorov was doing. More bottom pair kind of guy. So, we'll see. It'll be interesting.
And have you get any updates about trading Hayes yet or not?
That I don't know. I haven't heard anything on Hayes. Still kind of waiting to kind of see what happens with that, and we'll see.
I mean, we will see because we got a while to go for hockey because we are rebuilding, and it's a good thing right now because you don't want to be stuck in a hole like we were last year.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And especially, just like when you look it over, it's like, you're moving out a guy that makes, a lot of minutes and stuff and everything. So it's interesting for sure. We'll see. But thanks so much, buddy, for calling in. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Always good.
Yeah.
Always good hearing from you. I appreciate you calling in. Every episode you call in, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a huge Flyers fan.
I got you, buddy. All right, dude. I'll talk to you next week. All right.
Yep.
All right, buddy. See ya.
See you. Bye.
There he is, Tristan. Yeah. If anybody else runs through the line, surprised Soda Man hasn't called in yet. Watch, he'll be calling me in 2 minutes. Mr. Twister, I don't know, dude. To say Provy wasn't good at it, I think that's, I don't know. I think, let me think about that. I think he was, to an extent. I think he just wasn't as good anymore, and he was our number one, but I don't think he is like a legit number one. Like, he's not like a headman or anything like that. I think he's like I don't know. I wouldn't even know who to compare him to be honest. It's so hard, man. No, I'm sorry, man. I'm just busting your stones. Yeah, Dank, I agree. I think he's like a 3. I mean, there's not much else that you can really like go off of with it. It's just like, yeah, I mean, like, even when Niskanen and all that, and then he plays with Gustafsson for a good chunk, plays with Braun for most of the year, played with Braun for pretty much all of it. Yeah, so, unfortunately, it kind of just went the way it went. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I really don't like keeping Sanheim at this. This contract's going to be the death of this franchise. I just have the feeling. I don't know why, but I just really am not looking forward to the Sanheim deal. It kicks in July 1st, so we'll see. But yeah, no, this is Dank. Looking at anyone at 22, dude, I don't even know who I want them to get at 7. I've been so busy with everything that I've barely been able to look at draft stuff, and I'm gonna start doing it in these coming weeks, leading up. I mean, there's not much I can really say anyway. I'm not a prospect guy. I watch the highlights on YouTube, and I just, if they get who they get. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't answer it for you. I think it's 7. I probably want Smith or Benson. I think I'm leaning towards Smith if he's still there, and I hope he is. But that's probably who I want. But yeah, no. Thanks again to everybody. Again, I apologize about the technical difficulty with kicking in with Knubel. That will be fixed for next week. But yeah, no. Thanks again for all the support as always. Thanks again to Bill Clement, Mike Knubel, everybody who called in, Lou, Tristan, my dad, Sean, everybody. Really appreciate it. And yeah, thanks guys. I'll see you guys all next week. See you guys.